Check. 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 Bad. Bad. Huh.
Battapala. These principles remind us that true leadership is measured through service, compassion, and a deep sense of care. It calls on us to work not just for ourselves or partisan victories, but for the betterment of all people, especially those who are most in need. As we gather here today, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, the humility to listen with open hearts, and the strength to act with courage and work not just for ourselves. May we see beyond our differences for the betterment of all people, that our purpose is simply to serve the people who have placed their trust in us. As we gather here today, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, or selfless humility to listen with open hearts, every decision we make, and the strength to act with courage and work not just for ourselves. And may we see beyond our differences for the betterment of all people. May we work together simply to serve those who are struggling, place their trust. As we gather here today, the voices of the vulnerable, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, or selfless humility to listen with open hearts, every decision we make, strength to act with courage and work not just for ourselves. And may we see beyond our differences for the betterment of all people. May we work together simply to serve those who are struggling, place their trust. As we gather here today, the voices of the vulnerable, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, or selfless humility to listen with every decision we make, not just for ourselves. May we see beyond the betterment of all people. May we work together simply to serve those who are struggling, place their trust. As we gather here today, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, or selfless humility to listen with every decision we make, not just for ourselves. May we see beyond the betterment of all people. May we work together simply to serve those who are struggling. As we gather here today, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, selfless humility to listen with every decision we make, not just for ourselves. May we see beyond the betterment of all people. May we work together simply to serve those who are struggling. As we gather here today, may we be granted the wisdom to lead with integrity, selfless humility to listen with every decision we make, not just for ourselves. May we see beyond the betterment of all people. May we work together simply to serve those who are struggling.
We have Jake Power, partner and president of Powerwood Corporation, but he's not the only Power in the house. We've got a few family members joining, Christy, Owen, Desmond, and Ellen Power, as well. They're hosting an international student, Mary Moog from Frankfurt. Welcome to the house, and very much appreciate the partnership we have with our government on the good work that we're doing. The house joined me in making them feel very welcome. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have one more, in the spirit of the pride that we have in our country. As many members of the House will know, the Rugby Sevens are happening in Vancouver this starting Friday. I know the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sports is going to be heading over to be able to check out some games. It's a sense of pride for me as the MLA for Langford, home of rugby, and I'd like to say the sports capital of the world. I just want to send a message on behalf of all of us to the incredible men and women that make up Team Rugby Canada, and wish them the best of luck, particularly the men who are, I think, playing on Friday and Saturday. So will the House join me in cheering on Team Canada as they fight for our country on a good game of rugby. Thanks very much.
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Speaker. Some are in the House today, some are not, but I would just like to introduce the heroes of the East Annex. We have Chloe Maher, who's in the House, Helena Keenleslide, Havana Gibson, H.K. Norman, Brian Lee, and Kelly Favreau. All of these folks are our legislative assistants and work around us to keep us organized and keep us moving and taken care of. So I appreciate them very much, and I'd like to just say thank you and welcome.
House Leader of the Official Opposition.
Ace Will, I'd like to offer a big welcome to our 2025 Conservative Caucus interns who are with us today in the chamber. They are Marina Hayden, Deborah Berman, Priscilla Ng, Alexandra Bailey, and Tony Miyoshi. If you could please make them feel very welcomed. We are thrilled to have this group of young and energetic individuals sharing in our passion for change in politics in British Columbia, and I have a soft spot for the interns because 20 years ago I was an intern with the BC government as a part of the very first year of the Aboriginal Youth Internship Program, and it absolutely inspired me and changed my life. So please give a warm welcome to our Conservative Caucus interns.
Minister of Water and Land.
Jeez, grassroots.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of the town of Gibson, Silas White, who is joining us today. I think many of us know him and are so happy that he is here. He was first elected to Gibson's Council in 2014, and he and his family have been strong supporters of Gibson's Elementary School, the Sunshine Coast Museum, the Gibson's and District Public Library, Gibson's Public Market, and local arts organizations. That's just a little bit of what he and his family are involved in, so I'd like to ask the House to join me in making him feel very welcome today.
Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'd like to introduce Jude Cornelson. Jude is an associate professor and co-director at the Center for Rural Health Research in the Department of Family Practice at UBC. Her work has focused on developing a rigorous evidence base to inform rural health planning in a sustainable way that meets community needs. And thank you to the Minister of Forests. I would like to emphasize a welcome for my constituents and
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of the town of Gibson, Silas White, who is joining us today. I think many of us know him and are so happy that he is here. He was first elected to Gibson's Council in 2014, and he and his family have been strong supporters of Gibson's Elementary School, the Sunshine Coast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, we rightfully acknowledged and fittingly acknowledged Team BC for the men's curling taking place at the Briar starting next week in Kelowna. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out that right now the Scotties is happening out in Thunder Bay, and Team BC is represented by Corinne Brown's rink out of beautiful Kamloops, BC, and the Kamloops Curling Club. This is Corinne's fourth trip with her team to the Scotties representing BC, and this is the first year she has officially made it into the playdowns, which happened this weekend, and of course we won't be sitting as that takes place. So I do hope the House join me in giving a good round of applause of good luck to Team Brown as they look to bring the Scotties back to its rightful place in British Columbia.
Minister of Jobs and Economic Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise in the House to welcome the students today from my riding of Oak Bay Gordon Head. Would the House please make the students from Gordon Head Middle School and their teacher, Kelly Meredith, feel welcome today?
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, we rightfully acknowledged and fittingly acknowledged Team BC for the men's curling taking place at the Briar starting next week in Kelowna. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out that right now the Scotties is happening.
Minister of Social Development. and poverty reduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also joining us on the precinct from Nanaimo are students from Vancouver Island University. Will the House please welcome them and their teacher, Lauren Touchon. Thank you.
Minister of Tourism and Culture.
Speaker, it gives me great pleasure, last but not least, to welcome the Government Caucus interns, Annabella McElroy, Henry Waitanen, Miriam Devlin, Yua Bozaroka, and Chris Camasso. So would our team please make everyone welcome, but especially the government interns.
Vancouver Kensington.
I'm really pleased to welcome two constituents from Vancouver Kensington. Mike comes out of the film industry and also as a digital producer. He also has served as the previous provincial director for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, vice president for public affairs at the Care Providers Association. But I think what he's best known as and regarded certainly down in Vancouver Kensington as a community leader and advocate coming from the South Vancouver Hood. And Stacey, spouse for 27 years, she's a longtime corporate paralegal who co-authored the industry standard company law desk book published by Continuing Legal Education. She's a cycling enthusiast, and she's looking forward to riding again after her hip replacement surgery. I ask everybody to please give them a very warm welcome.
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
She's a cycling enthusiast. And
Statements
she's
by
looking forward
members.
to riding again after her
Member
hip
for
replacement.
Columbia River Revelstoke.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Reid Ambrosio is a 19-year-old young man born and raised in Kimberley. Reid was also a student of mine at Selkirk Secondary School. He's an avid sports fan, and he's become quite the golfer over these past years. While in grade 11, Reid and his family learned that he was diagnosed with T-cell lymphoblastic lymphoma. This devastating news hit our community very hard. Reid's father, Joe, is a teaching colleague at Selkirk Secondary School, so the impacts were felt deep in the staff and student bodies. Reid spent the next year going through extensive chemotherapy, radiation, as well as receiving a bone marrow transplant from his brother Eli. Reid is a tough kid, and he battled hard through his illness and recovery. Reid was given a good bill of health and worked extremely hard through difficult academic courses in order to fulfill his ultimate goal, graduating with his friends and peers. It was heartwarming and an honor for me to announce Reid's name during Kimberley's annual graduation parade to huge applause. Since then, Reid is enrolled in Human Exercise Science program at UBC Okanagan, studying to become a medical professional himself. In November, the Ambrosio family was hit with the news that Reid's cancer had relapsed, and he would require extensive treatment, which he is currently undergoing. Reid is in Vancouver as we speak, which is a 12-hour drive from his home in Kimberley.
Really,
treatments include the possibility of a second bone marrow transplant.
I'm from home from Prince George.
The financial stress the Ambrosio family has endured pales in comparison to the emotional toll they are facing for a second time. Fellow members, I know cancer is a topic we hold near and dear to us all at this moment. I would ask that you make room in your hearts, prayers, and thoughts for Reid and his family for this journey ahead. Thank you.
Member for Warner-Lumbee.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and congratulations. So proud to see you here. Mr. Speaker, after having a fun-filled day at Lumbee's annual outhouse races, I had an incredible time celebrating the 65th annual Vernon Winter Carnival. It was heartwarming to see our community come together once again to embrace the magic of winter and the spirit of this cherished tradition. This year, we took a nostalgic journey back to the 80s, and what a blast it was. From bright neon colors to legendary music, the festival was filled with energy, laughter, and unforgettable moments. Whether you were reliving the decade or experiencing it for the first time, there was something for everyone to enjoy. Our community office even won runner-up for the best decorated painted window. Shout out to Demi Designs. My family and I had great time marching in the beloved Winter Carnival Parade. It was great to see all the businesses, members of the community, showing off fantastic floats and beautiful costumes. We had the honor of bringing our premier last year, and he had an absolute blast, meeting with so many people in community, taking time to join incredible atmosphere and enjoying some of our most beloved traditions like Balloon Glow and Family Fun Park and breakfast event. His excitement truly reflected the warmth and joy of our community, and people talked about it this year as well. Of course, this 10-day festival wouldn't be possible without the dedication of our incredible volunteers, generous sponsors, and hardworking board of directors. Their passion, commitment made the festival such a success, and I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you. The Vernon Winter Carnival has always been a reminder that even in the coldest months, our community shines the brightest, and it was a joy to celebrate with all of you, to create new memories, and to continue this wonderful tradition that brings us all together. I can't wait what next year brings. Thank you.
Uh-oh. We've got some lag. Seems to be some
Kensington in her praise and recognition of an old friend who is present today and who is known to many on both sides of this House, Vancouver City Councillor Mike Klassen.
Kelowna.
I have known Mike since 2008, first as a political keener, but then as a smart, sensible, and constructive voice on urban issues, making an ever-increasing contribution as a commentator, a doer, and after far too long as an elected official. Before entering public service, Councillor Klassen played a key role in advancing the needs of seniors at the BC Care Providers Association. This month marks the 10th anniversary of another one of Mike's noteworthy accomplishments, the establishment of the BC Wine Appellation Task Group, which he led as executive director. This was a blue ribbon industry group that sought to advance the Wines of Marked Quality Act to allow for new sub-geographic indications such as Naramata Bench, Okanagan Falls, South Kelowna Slopes, Lake Country, and Cowichan Valley. And every MLA who has wine in their riding should be cheering right now. Mike has also left his mark on BC's tech and digital media landscape as a former game producer on the EA Sports NBA Live computer game franchise. He has also been a steadfast advocate for our world-renowned film and television sector, having once worked on TV series like MacGyver and 21 Jump Street. Now, as a city councillor, he continues this work, championing policies that enhance Vancouver and British Columbia's business climate, attract investment, support working families, and create opportunities for both emerging and established talent in tech and entertainment. Please join me in thanking Mike Klassen for his contributions to our province's agri-food, creative, and technology ecosystems. Mike.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The riding I represent, West Vancouver Sea to Sky, recently hosted events as part of the 2025 Invictus Games. Whistler and Vancouver hosted over 500 competitors from 25 nations around the world to compete in adaptive sports. The Games are a symbol of resilience and courage and celebrate the determination and recovery of servicemen and servicewomen. They are important in recognizing the invisible injuries of PTSD and other mental health challenges. The Games also provide an opportunity to work closely with the 4 host First Nations, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Lillooet. The Invictus Games flag started in Lillooet Nation territory and traveled throughout the Sea to Sky to the opening ceremonies. I had the honor of attending some of the games, which included, for the first time ever, winter adaptive sports, and for some competitors, it was their first time seeing snow. I want to note for members the humility of some competitors in declining the designation athlete, and also recognize that sometimes just getting to the start line required superhuman courage, effort, and determination that is far beyond pure just athleticism. I want to thank the Premier for his opening remarks and for setting an example of genuine Canadian respect and friendship. And I want to congratulate all the organizers, volunteers, and competitors. Thank you for inspiring us with your strength and success.
I messed that up.
Member for Nanaimo Lansfels. Sorry, member, I missed your name on the list. You should have been first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize an incredible local business in my community, Norse Log Homes in Lantsville. Recently, I had the privilege of visiting Norse Log Homes with President Laura Kendall and seeing firsthand the work that they are doing, not just to build beautiful homes, high-quality homes across Canada and internationally, but to build economic opportunity in our region. This company is rooted in community, building good, local jobs, and providing the skilled trades that are essential to our economy. Small businesses like Norse Log Homes are the backbone of British Columbia's economy. They drive innovation, they create good private sector jobs and employment, and ensure that prosperity is shared in every corner of our province. When we invest in small businesses, we invest in stronger communities, in families being able to put down roots, in young people finding careers that allow them to stay in the communities they love. When we invest in small businesses, we invest in the people of British Columbia's ability to realize the blueprints of their ultimate achievements. The owners of Norse Log Homes are like all British Columbians. They want to work hard and provide the best opportunities for their loved ones and neighbors and surrounding communities. Mr. Speaker, supporting small businesses isn't just good economics, it's about people. It's about the tradesperson who takes pride in developing their specialized skills that are integral to making our everyday lives possible. It's about the apprentice who gets their first job with a local company and sees a future for themselves in a career that offers stability, pride, and opportunity. It's about ensuring that communities like Nanaimo and Lantsville thrive not just today, but for generations to come. So let's stand behind great local businesses like Norse Log Homes and keep British Columbia as a place where small businesses feel supported, where workers can succeed, and where communities prosper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver Kensington.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In Vancouver, Kensington, South Memorial Park has been a vital hub for the community for almost 100 years. Designed by E. Dundas Todd as a memorial to soldiers who died in the First World War, South Memorial Park opened May 22, 1926 as the playground for the people. This was 3 years before Vancouver amalgamated as a city in 1929.
Which is kind of cool.
It's also home to the first cenotaph, fundraising by local women to build it. And the cenotaph was relocated to the park on November 11, 1939 from the previous Municipal Hall of South Vancouver. The park measures 13.5 hectares. It's home to a variety of sports facilities where people play soccer, baseball, cricket, tennis, lacrosse, much more. They have a running track, there's picnic sites, a playground, and a pond. It also has a pollinator garden where neighbors congregate daily at a bench dedicated to the memory of Dana Olson, daughter of community advocate and dear friend Sharon Olson. I want to recognize the Friends of Memorial Park as champions in my community. Beth Ringdahl, Cindy Heinrichs, Sherry Loof, and the many neighbors and friends who've contributed in building a strong community and really making it such a dynamic neighborhood. I want to recognize and appreciate and thank the City of Vancouver, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport, the FIFA World Cup 2026 Committee for moving a planned training site at Memorial Park to another location at UBC. Celebrating this year is going to be 99 years in the park. You're invited. And we're going to start the year-long process planning for the centennial next year. There's a vision for the next 100 years, including heritage site designation, field house restoration, water access for the pollinator meadow, and Memorial Park is cherished and loved by the entire community. It's a great place to come together, to meet friends, to make new friends, and everyone's here, got an open invitation. Please drop by. You want to visit me, and we'll go for a walk in the park. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, members. Before we start the question period, I have a statement to make. It's about the point of order by the member for Surrey Cloverdale. Honourable members, yesterday following oral question period, the member for Surrey Cloverdale rose on what she called a point of personal privilege to register a complaint about the words spoken by the Premier during oral question period. As we begin the 43rd Parliament, the Chair will make procedural observations for the benefit of all members of the House. A potential breach of privilege is one of the most serious matters that a Chair and subsequently the House itself may have to deal with. That's why, under our standing orders, the consideration of such a matter takes precedence over essentially all other businesses. It is not proper to use question of privilege to raise disputes or differences of opinion between members or rebuttals on matters that come up in debate. The matter raised by the member for Surrey Cloverdale ought to have been raised as a point of order. Though regardless, the member's grievance disputes words spoken by another member, and that's seldom a matter for the Chair to weigh into. It is not the role of the Chair to intervene on matters raised by members for the Chair's consideration that amounts to disagreements on the interpretation of information or of words spoken. In a deliberative chamber, such disagreements will arise from time to time. The Chair will also bring to the House's attention that a point of personal privilege is not a term that's recognized procedurally by the rules of this House. A member may raise a point of order or a question of privilege depending on the matter at hand. The Chair encourages members to seek advice from the Chair or the clerks at the table if they require any guidance on the appropriate procedural mechanism or course of action. The Chair thanks members for their attention and cooperation in this regard. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
House Leader of the Official Opposition.
Last week, I attended a memorial for my brother who died one year ago from a lethal dose of drugs. He lost his life because this government has not only failed to stop the flow of fentanyl into our communities, they then inflated the market with so-called safe supply.
There we go.
Or safer supply.
Day two.
Or is it prescribed alternatives?
Prescribed alternatives.
The fact is, Mr. Speaker, no matter how this government chooses to rebrand today or tomorrow, all drugs are lethal in the hands of vulnerable people who need real solutions now. Empty words by this Premier will not bring back my loved ones. So instead, my question is, will the Premier take action and call a public inquiry into the failed experiment of safe supply?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And first, I want to pass my sincere condolences to the Opposition House Leader. And it's unbelievable. It's so difficult to imagine what it must be like to go through losing a family member, and I am so sorry to hear about it. I think this is the kind of impact we're hearing here in this House that we know has touched the lives of so many families and people and communities across British Columbia, which is why we take this issue so seriously and have made it one of our top priorities as a government to bring down the rate of deaths and to stop the harm of the toxic drug supply and the impact that it has on people. Prescribed alternatives are one way of helping people get the medicine that they need to stabilize their lives, to get access to more supports that they need, to move into different forms of therapy, and to ultimately get a treatment bed to get the recovery and work on the healing that they need. Evidence supports this approach, and we have made changes, as announced yesterday, around how this program will work so that we can continue to work with the best evidence possible, working with clinicians and prescribers, with community service organizations,
bribe
to
them.
make patient-centered, people-centered decisions, and to help people get the care and the support that they need.
Hey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I was in the detox center a couple of weeks ago at St.
Opposition
Paul's.
House Leader.
Dude smoking meth right there, right in the detox.
Respectfully, my family has already paid an unsurmountable price during this crisis.
Straight facts.
Not only did it take 2 of my brothers,
Oh, wow.
but also my niece, who died alone in a tent in one of the tent cities from an overdose by herself. And just last fall, we buried my 13-year-old nephew because he found a wallet with drugs in it, which he did that night in his bed while his mom slept in the next room. And he was not an addict.
Nope.
We're not alone in this. We know that 16,328 people have died. Do not round the numbers down
That's
when you're talking about lives.
round them up.
16,328 families that will not get their loved ones back. Their children, their parents, and their spouses. Our children and our youth are our future, and they are dying because of this crisis. Again, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, will you call a public inquiry to expose who knew what, when? Be truly transparent and accountable to the family members and the communities that deserve to know, and prevent the massive loss of precious life that we are experiencing as a community and as British Columbians.
All questions through the chair and answers through the chair as well. Thank you. Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And once again, the government or the opposition House Leader is revealing very personal details around the impact on her family. And I want to acknowledge that this crisis has touched Indigenous peoples in particular in a very disproportionate
Touched
way.
all Canadians.
And that the trauma that Indigenous
equally.
people have lived with and the difficulty of accessing health care altogether
Don't
is
matter
all
what.
part of this, and why we have to stay
why do we have to
focused
separate
on the work
everyone?
that we are doing with everybody
Like
to
this
support
board,
them
you-
in
it fucks
substance use
everyone up.
disorders, in addiction issues, mental health
doctor's
issues
fault.
altogether. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we made a decision to make changes to the prescribed alternatives program specifically to prevent diversion, to prevent these medicines from getting into the wrong hands and being used in the wrong way. They are intended to be used by the people for whom they are prescribed only. And in using this program, we know that people are being better connected to services, being stabilized, finding housing, finding work. This morning, Mr. Speaker, I met with AVI Community Health Services Society, and I heard directly
AVI.
from them about the 400 people that they have helped here on Vancouver Island through witnessed consumption of prescribed alternatives. And they told some very compelling stories and very heartwarming stories around what this has meant for people. Mr. Speaker, we have to act on evidence. We have to act with compassion. We're going to continue to do this work to get people the supports they need.
400 people served at AVI. That's
Leader of the official opposition.
40 days.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have to act on evidence. Well, here's some evidence. The life expectancy of First Nations has dropped by more than 6 years under this NDP and under their policies.
Horrible.
We've just heard, the very shattering stories from our House Leader.
You hear them from a lot of
So many First Nation communities around this province have same stories, and not just First Nations, but others as well, have these same stories. And it's clear that this government wants to change the page on their safe supply scandal and the diversion and the damage that has been done to people across this province. $117 million has been spent on this program. Imagine how many lives could have been saved if that money had been spent on treatment, in particular abstinence-based treatment, which we know how effective that can be. There are many facilities around this province that have zero funding from government for what can be a very effective treatment. The public wants answers. The public wants to know just how did this happen? We need a public inquiry into this so we have the answers, so that we know how this has happened, and we make sure that history cannot be repeated. When will this be called?
Thank you.
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And the Leader of the Opposition speaks quite rightly about the impact on Indigenous peoples. And again, the need for culturally appropriate and safe supports and services for Indigenous peoples is an essential part of this work. Mr. Speaker, the Prescribed Alternatives Program is working, and it is helping people. It is saving lives.
The Prescribed Alternatives
We are
Program
making changes to this program
they
to ensure that diversion does not take place, that these medicines don't get into the wrong hands while we work with people to move them onto therapies and into treatment and recovery. But, Mr. Speaker, we have done so much work in building new treatment beds, in building new mental health supports for youth, and yet we know there is so much more to do because, Mr. Speaker, every month, every day that we hear about lives lost, it is a reminder for every single one of us that we have to work together to do this. That this is working with communities, with people, with nations, with experts, with physicians, with clinicians, to do this work together and to use the evidence that's out there to design and implement the best programs possible. Using the evidence to make changes to the program so that they are delivered more effectively is a wise way to move forward. But, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue this work. We have so much more to do to bring the rate of death down and to ensure that this toxic drug crisis stops impacting so many people.
Listening to this, at least 3 million.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reality is somebody should be held responsible for the damage that has been done over the years for the program that clearly failed. This is a scandal, and this safe supply scandal, the diversion, how it has gone to fed the drug industry in this province, how it has gone into the criminals' hands, how it has fueled it right across not even just this province but beyond our borders. We need to know why, how, who actually was involved in this. More importantly, why it was not changed. Reframing it, rechanging it doesn't change the facts. Matter of fact, in April of 2022, Health Canada funded an organization released a document called Reframing Diversion for Healthcare Providers. Health Canada knew in 2022 what was going on. The federal government knew. There is no chance that the provincial government did not know about the diversion and the problems that were going on. And yet, we had the Premier say in March 2023, and he insisted that, and I quote, talking about this was, I quote, spreading misinformation, and I quote, disappointing to say that diversion and trafficking these drugs was even happening. There has been clearly a serious scandal that has gone on. The public needs to know information. When, Mr. Speaker, will the Premier take responsibility, call a public inquiry, and make sure that the public has the information about what has happened to make sure it should never, ever happen again in this province?
I don't want to hit my table because it's going to break.
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the Opposition. Again, I will say yesterday in the changes that we announced to this program that they are based on the evidence that has come forward with investigations into bad actor pharmacies, pharmacies that have been abusing the payment system to their benefit, of allegations of that, and that these investigations are underway. Last year, upon hearing anecdotes, stories, these allegations, the Special Investigations Unit inside the Ministry of Health was tasked specifically to look into this.
Members.
We formed a working group.
Wait for your turn, please. Member, wait for your turn, please. Minister.
We formed a working group with the Ministry of the Public Safety and Solicitor General and with the police to investigate this. And again, as this information came forward, myself in my new role as the Minister of Health, receiving briefings coming into this role, our ministry was working on options to be developed. When the report came out, it became clear. It became clear that we needed to speak to the public about this and to explain.
Bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Members will come to order.
to ensure that everybody understands the facts that we have and why we are making changes to the program. But Mr. Speaker,
member, please, please. Minister will conclude.
thank you. The interjection is correct. People are dying. Interjection is correct. People are dying. That's why it's so important. That's why it's that we continue to take action. That we continue to take action of treatment, to build a system, to work with people in a patient-centered, a people-centered approach with compassion.
Fucking I was doing people-centered
Listening
approach
to
in
the best
CLBC.
advice
They
and
took that
expertise
from
that is
CLBC
out
back
there
in
to develop the right protocols, to work with
People-centered
people,
approach. Thank you,
and that this is work we must do together.
So, just so everyone understands, people-centered approach.
Who's next? Member for Surrey Cloverdale? No, sorry. Who's next? Member for Surrey Cloverdale? No, sorry. Who's from the Green Party? Member, you have to stand up for from the Green Party, please. Yeah. House Leader of the Green Party, third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The rising cost of living, coupled with stagnating wages and outdated social assistance rates, have caused people across the province to feel more insecure than ever. 1 in 10 British Columbians live below the poverty line, including 2 out of 10 children. Food bank usage has almost doubled in the last 5 years. The costs of housing, groceries, and other essential goods are high and continuing to rise rapidly. The imposition of U.S. tariffs is only amplifying this climate of uncertainty. Now, more than ever, British Columbians need a guarantee from their government. They need assurance that support will be there during job and housing insecurity. They need to know that their government is there for them, and not just through politically motivated one-off rebates. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Premier, how will you implement permanent economic and social supports that British Columbians can rely on?
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To echo the words of our Lieutenant Governor, at a time of particular crisis and pressure that everybody is feeling in Canada, more than ever as a government, no matter what is thrown at us, we are determined to support the most vulnerable people. And because we've been investing in people, because we've been strengthening our foundation, this is no time to turn back to a time of service cuts.
Has anybody gone into a welfare office lately and watched
in all of our
and
actions
listened
over the last 7 years,
and
but
watched?
especially, and again reinforced in the throne speech. We're certainly concerned, we're already concerned about the impacts of global inflation, all the way that the cost of living has hit people hard. That's why it's been so important for us to have raised income assistance rates 5 times. They had been frozen for a decade when the opposition was the party in power.
Make people work.
Small things like the disability bus pass having been taken away, something that we returned, bringing back, implementing a plan to reduce poverty, which the former government did not have, that has lifted thousands of people out of...
Members.
And that we have lifted thousands of people out of poverty, including 50,000 children out of poverty, is work that has been accomplished by investing in people and work that we will continue to do as a government.
They
that is
lifted
our priority.
50,000 people out of poverty.
For the chair to recognize members, you have to quickly stand up, member. Supplemental?
Thank you to the Minister for your response. I appreciate the efforts that are made by the government, but I also need to re-emphasize the severity of the current situation. Tough economic times will continue to impact the most vulnerable people and put strain on almost every household across the province. BC is one of the wealthiest jurisdictions in the world, yet hundreds of thousands of people
were
live
the
below the
wealthiest,
poverty line. We
then
must
we
take...
wouldn't be living like this, you. Yeah, greasy green. What happened? They pressed the button. They pressed the button on him. They don't want to hear him.
Through the chair, to ensure that we no longer have hundreds of thousands of British Columbians living below the poverty line.
No, we're the wealthiest province in
Thank
the
you,
world.
Mr. Speaker. We all want people to have the supports that they need at all times, but especially at a time like now, where there is so much chaos, the threat that families feel about the security of their jobs, forest-dependent communities especially. And this is work that informs for all of us on the government side, representing family members that were already pressured, as the member says, by the cost of living, that there's so much uncertainty ahead. That's why it was so important for our government to legislate poverty reduction. The member has seen our 10-year plan that we have been implementing over the last 5 years.
Wow.
We renewed
They
the
have
plan
a
based
10-year
on
plan.
input from 10,000 people across the province.
Members.
That's why it's been so important for us already to implement things like free prescription birth control, like expanding childcare, and increasing income assistance rates 5 times already.
So you can
this work that we'll
drunk
continue to do, that we're
and have
determined to
sex,
do,
but don't
it's
worry,
more
we're having
important
kids.
now than ever.
Because you don't have no responsibility now.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2024, the Premier's public health officer stated, quote, "Diversion isn't a good or bad thing." Now, thanks to a leaked government presentation, we know that not only was diversion of taxpayer-funded safe supply significant, but it's also being trafficked provincially, nationally, and internationally.
Yeah.
There is no question, Mr. Speaker, this is a bad thing, and the public has a right to know how their tax dollars were allowed to fuel addiction and crime. Will the Premier implement a public inquiry so we can get to the bottom of the scandal?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Diversion is a bad thing. We want to make sure that any medication for any use is used by the person for whom it is intended.
You need to
And
take
that's
some.
why the data that we've received from these investigations that
Make your hair
began after
longer.
these allegations surfaced last year have revealed the information that we needed to adjust and change accordingly the prescribed alternative program.
We
And
don't
these
prescribe
stories,
alternative
they
program.
helped. They led us to
It's
more
called
information.
bribery.
The
You're
investigations that are
bribing-
underway
you're
right now,
bribing,
they've
like,
been an
drug
important part
addicts
of
that are
making
on
these
the
decisions.
street. I can't, it's like
We
you
are
can't believe I'm
acting
learning
on this work. We are going to continue to do that. This is about maintaining community safety. This is about ensuring that people get access to the supports, the services, the medication that they need to separate them from the
want them to
toxic
go on
street
dope.
drug supply and ensure that the medication they're getting is helping them move through the system into treatment and recovery. Mr. Speaker, we're going to stay focused on this work, and we're going to use the evidence before us to make the best decisions possible.
Surrey Cloverdale supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The minister had said, Mr. Speaker, that when they found out about allegations, they took action, and yet allegations of diversion, people coming forward with stories of diversion, that has gone on for years, and yet this government has continued to deny, and now painting it as a problem with bad actors, bad pharmacies. And only 11 months ago, Mr. Speaker, the former Minister of Mental Health and Addiction said there was, quote, "no evidence to support a widespread diversion of safe supply drugs." The government repeatedly and continues to gaslight the public, even as there is mounting evidence that taxpayer-funded drugs were being used as a currency to purchase deadly fentanyl, enriching gangs and criminals who make and sell fentanyl, trafficked here in our province and outside the borders of our province. Somebody knew, Mr. Speaker. Somebody knew this was happening, and they did nothing. We need a public inquiry, Mr. Speaker. Will the Premier finally stand up today and say that he will implement one?
Premier hasn't spoken yet. Asking questions. That's like the joke.
Minister of
when I
Health.
was skiing.
Thank you,
downhill,
Honourable
doing
Speaker.
moguls and fell asleep.
We take concerns of diversion very
Buddies were all like,
seriously, which is why these investigations have been
Members,
initiated. So the
question
member
has been
refers.
asked already. Thank you.
The member refers to events of last year, in which information was provided to us by the RCMP.
Wow.
And at the time, the BC RCMP Assistant Commissioner put out a statement.
Holy, a
It was
statement.
March 11th, 2024, saying that there was not evidence of widespread diversion. But that
Members,
the cops ain't doing
members
their
will come to
job
order
right.
now, please. When your
Cops are
turn
being
comes, you
told
can
what
stand
to
up
do
and ask
by
questions.
the
Don't waste
fucking
your own time.
Politicians that are in
That
charge.
was the information that was provided at that time
That's
by
why our
the
system
RCMP.
needs to be.
However, the stories, the anecdotes, the allegations, they led to tasking the Special Investigations Unit inside the Ministry of Health specifically with looking at this, which has led to a series of months of work into this with information that has come forward that has led to the changes that I announced yesterday.
But wait a second.
We're
she
going
just
to
said that
continue.
the cops didn't
Member
find anything. But
from
now she
Kamloops.
just said that the cops found something, and
We're
that's
going
why
to
she's changed.
continue to work with the RCMP, with police
Help
on these
me out.
investigations. We are going to take action on those bad actor pharmacies. We are working to change the fee
fuck is she
structure
blaming the
that
pharmacies
pharmacies
for?
use. And more widely,
keep
we will be
blaming the
working with the
pharmacies.
colleges and with prescribers on the subject of opioid prescriptions generally. Mr. Speaker, there's so much work to do on this file. It's so
much
important
work
that we come
to
together
do.
to do this work, and that's what we'll keep doing.
The pharmacies have just done such a bad job giving out the
Member for
drugs.
Vancouver Kilchin.
Nothing to do with the doctors. or
Mr.
the
Speaker, I
addicts.
direct my question to the Solicitor General.
Oh.
Street violence and store thefts are completely out of control in the City of Vancouver.
Out of control.
Thefts, smashed windows, and threats to employees have
but
seen
threats to, like,
Gastown lose London
autistic
Drugs, JJ Bean, and TD Bank, all under this government's watch.
Yeah.
Is the Solicitor General waiting for every business in Vancouver to abandon the downtown east side and other parts of Vancouver before he does something? People want action. All we get is talk, talk, talk. They want action and they want these problems resolved.
Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker. And thank you, member, for the question.
You're welcome.
I understand people don't feel as safe as they should be in the neighborhoods, and that's not acceptable. Gastown is actually within my riding, and I understand London Drugs has not moved out. There's been talks about it. And if you look at recently, by talking to some head of security for Nestor, which is actually located in Gastown, violent crimes is actually in his area, from he can attest to, it's dropped 70% in the last 2 months due to increased patrol and the pending creation of the community policing center, which is working for Gastown.
That are hired
now,
to
a
run
lot more
these
work has to be done.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm outraged with any kind of stranger attack, any kind of theft, and making it more difficult for people to do business in an area that needed them. It's very concerning for me. But to actually increase public safety in the long term, it needs coordinated effort between government, policing, mental health, addiction, and complex care housing to address those issues. So I look forward to continue to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Member has supplemental.
Yes, I do, Mr. Speaker. Ty William Lahr tried to kill staff with a lead pipe, and the repercussions for this? Released from custody as usual. We hear story after story about this. Local resident Betania Victoria said, quote, "The region is not safe. When I go to the stores, I feel the employees are very brave," close quote. When will this government implement involuntary care for people who are both a danger to themselves and to others? The laws are on the books, available for use. My constituents no longer want to face death threats at work. What is this government waiting for? No more talk. We need action now. It's gone on for years. When's it going to stop?
I don't
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you so much to the member for the question. I think as members are aware, there has been considerable work that has been going on, and with the advice of Dr. Daniel Vigo, who's acting as an advisor in this capacity, as we work to understand and bring in secure care treatment for people who are suffering from concurrent disorders, from mental health disorders, from substance use challenges, and acquired brain injury. We will have 2 facilities that are being stood up this spring to provide the care for these people who are not in a position to be able to make the best decisions. Mr. Speaker, it's an incredibly serious issue and one that we cannot take lightly, and we will not. But we're going to continue forward with this path and expand as we come forward with new facilities and treating people, again, with the best, most compassionate and evidence-based care.
Appointed
Thank you.
BC Chief Scientific Advisor to improve care
Member
for
for
people
Kelowna
with
Mission.
complex mental health addiction.
Mr. Speaker, this government has responded to the American tariff threat by wrapping themselves in the flag they once scorned, by implementing a fake hiring freeze after growing the size of government by 1/3, and by rediscovering the economy after driving BC to the lowest business confidence and the weakest private sector job growth in Canada. This premier seems to be inspired by Marx.
Experience.
Groucho Marx, who said,
But he's worked in
those are my principles, and if you don't like them, well, I have others. As they pivot to implementing conservative policies, this NDP government keeps blaming others for their record of failure and broken promises, like their cancelled $1,000 grocery rebate. The fact is, the Premier promised people and families immediate relief right now, not in 5 years, in the first year of this government. And he promised it when BC was already facing a staggering $9.4 billion deficit of his own making. We know the member for Point Grey has a membership at Hotbox Yoga. So can the Premier tell the House which is more flexible, his promises or his principles?
He's a member of Hotbox Yoga. Look on no ground.
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, first, let me begin by welcoming the member of the House and thank you for the question. I was at yoga this morning, had a good stretch. I encourage all members. It helps with the heart rate during question period.
Holy shit.
The member says the Conservatives. Thank you.
No. Member.
Oh, it just happened.
Don't ever use that word again in the House.
Oh.
Member for Chilliwack, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Quote, and there we have it. The Premier needs to comply for the greater good, unquote. February 1st, 2025. Their plan to respond to the tariffs was to cancel the North Coast transmission line, a major project to grow our economy.
Don't ever use that
the
word
member
again
is
in the
simply wrong about BC's economy.
Member
for Chilliwack, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Quote, and there we have it. The Premier needs to comply for the greater good, unquote. February 1st, 2025. Their plan to respond to the tariffs is to cancel the North Coast transmission line, a major project to grow our economy. The member is simply wrong about BC's economy. We were the fastest growing economy
he's concerned
in
about the
Canada
deficit, but he
last
wasn't
year.
when his party proposed a deficit of $11 billion. Foreign direct investment into BC is up
one of the
almost
lowest unemployment rates in the
150%.
Members, they're leading the way in the fight against tariffs with 18 projects worth more than $20 billion for thousands of jobs. We're going to fight Donald Trump's tariffs. We're going to respond by growing our economy, providing opportunity for all Canadians, leading the way forward, and we look forward to the Conservatives joining us to fight for the true north, strong and free.
Strong and free. Wow.
Please continue.
Speaker, thank you for
Just a
your...
second. The bell ends the question period. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I thank you for your remarks this morning on the point raised by the member for Surrey Cloverdale. I took the opportunity between yesterday and today to review her remarks. While I disagree with her characterization, I was not correct in saying that she conflated the two issues, and I withdraw the remark.
Thank you.
Balance. One.
Government House Leader. Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I call continued debate on the throne speech.
Member for Courtney Comox had some time left.
We're going to have a break now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to continue my remarks today. Given the importance of the issues at hand, I must highlight critical omissions from the throne speech. Building on the back of that rather fiery question period, I feel these remarks are more poignant now than they were previously. First, there was no mention of the public sector unions' collective agreements, which are set to be renegotiated this year. For every 1% wage increase, we add $500 million to the government bill. How does this government plan to meet it? Government.
Okay, friends. So listen up. I am. There's only 2 or 3 people here that people bounced when it was. I'm going to bounce too. I've got some work to do. I've got to get out and do some things. I'm going to come back and redo this video for later. I'm going to post it up by about 5 or 6 o'clock at night. God bless you and keep you until then. And be nice to people when you're out on the street. Because you never know who's going to come back at you.